I know you're gonna dig this.
This is Rhine McLin, host of the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center's award-winning show, Funk Chronicles, recorded live here at DATV Studios in Dayton, Ohio. Zooming in all the way from Oakland, California, David Garibaldi, original drummer for the funk group Tower of Power. David started playing music in the Pleasanton Elementary School Band as a senior in high school. He joined the Sid Reis Big Band, his first pro gig. And after high school, he joined a funk band called the Disciples, which led him to his journey with Tower of Power. He started playing with the group in 1970 and remains with the group today. Welcome and thank you so much for agreeing to be on our show. Now, before we start, there's a quote from you that I want to read about what you said, David, which really sums up who and what you are all about when it comes to the Tower of Power. One of the great things for me about the Tower of Power is that we share a common approach to making music. We've always had players who understand what it means to be a team. It's a very old school philosophy. We're the sum of our parts. That's our strength. We take the stage as 10 individuals, but there comes a time in the set when everyone locks in the set into the moment where we're all in the same place and we become one person, one entity. I found that so inspiring, David. And it just really sums it up, because when we look at your career with Tower of Power, you know, you go in and out, but that there I can see is what keeps you there.
Yes, ma'am. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. This is pretty cool, I have to say. The Funk Center, the Funk Hall of Fame, I mean, this is so great, you know, because it's just music that I've loved, you know, since I was little, and just to be here it's an honor and it's a pleasure. But yeah, the team thing, you know, that's Tower Power all the way. You know, we do what we do it together, and the people in the band understand that. So that's kind of been kind of our baseline sort of way we operate always. You know, it's a team. We do it together.
You know, we go back now, and you know, I'm going to go back into where you were when, like, 7 years old, when you became interested in beating drums. And you didn't even have your own drum set, but you were beating drums. And you moved forward to getting your own drum set. Your parents saw that this is what you wanted to do. And so I'm curious as to what was so special that drove you to the drums?
You know, my parents always had music playing around the house. And so, you know, in those days, this was like I'm going to date myself. This is like the pre-tape recorder days, so it's everything was like, record players and that kind of stuff and radio. And so there was always music going on in the house. And my mother liked this song called The Saber Dance. And it was this very percussive kind of recording. And I'd started with the violin, which I couldn't stand, but I wanted to play the trumpet. And originally I wanted to be a trumpet player. I still love trumpet, but there were no trumpets left when the school band teacher came around to me. So they gave me a violin, which I didn't like. And so still was interested in music though. So a couple of years after that, for some reason, the drums just appealed to me. It was, inspired by this recording, and I thought, wow, that'd be kind of fun to do. So it started in elementary school, playing in the school orchestra, the school marching band, that kind of thing. And then in high school is where I started with the drum set. There was a kid in school playing the drum set in the band room. And I remember sitting watching him one day, and I'd never really been that close to a drum set where I could actually sit down and play it, except for my cousin's wedding at the Sons of Italy Hall in San Francisco, a little bit before that. So the kid is playing these drum beats. So as soon as he leaves the room, I sat down and tried to play some of the things I heard him do, and I could do it, in some sort of basic way. And it really, really was exciting, for that particular moment. I realized, wow, this is fantastic, So I kept getting into it, playing more and more and more. And then I was taking piano lessons at Sid Reis Music Store in Livermore, California. And so Sid was a pretty cool guy, played saxophone. He had a great music store here in town. And so he invited me to be in his big band. And they rehearsed every Tuesday night. And these were all older guys. And there wasn't, I didn't really know much about it, understanding big band music. They were all older. They sort of showed me, had the ropes, showed me how to play, that kind of thing. And they were very patient with me. And then we did our first gig, which was on the back of a flatbed truck out in front of his store. And we got paid. I'm going, you mean I can get paid to do this? So that got me very, very excited, and that kind of was, I realized, okay, this is what I want to do. And, proceeded on that path, just playing all the time. I was in military, in the Air Force band. Did that from 66 through 69. And of course, right before that, I'd been playing locally. And then my friends, another big moment was my friends took me to see James Brown at the San Jose Civic Auditorium. James Brown would come to the Bay Area all the time. He'd play in Oakland, he'd play San Jose, he'd play San Francisco. And it seemed like he was always around, doing shows. And so my friends said, have you ever seen James Brown? I said, no. So, man, well, hey, we're going to go. So we went to the San Jose Civic Auditorium. We went down in the afternoon, and we walked in. The doors were open, and they were rehearsing. James Brown's band, they were rehearsing. We walked up to the front of the stage, and I still remember it. And even Tower Power has played in the San Jose Civic Auditorium. We play there. I can picture myself standing down there looking up at the stage. And so we watched rehearsal. Nobody said anything to us. They just let us watch. It was fantastic. I'd never seen anything like that up close. And we stayed for the show that night. And then I decided kind of that's kind of the music that I wanted to play, And also, was playing jazz and a lot of other kinds of music, because the Bay Area was a pretty eclectic place. And, a lot of, it's a diverse musical landscape here. And so it was very common for the players here to be, interested in lots of different kinds of music and kind of fusing that into, their personal playing styles. So, yes.
What's interesting is that I know that you poo-pooed the violin, but you played the piano.
Yeah.
So Now, this is just a query on my part, that learning music on the piano, how does that transfer to learning to read music for the drum? I'm just curious.
Well, it's the same thing. It's just that, there's rhythm, and basically piano has a melody. The drums are basically just the rhythms. So it's the music is the same. It's just not notes. It's arranged on, the musical staff and the kind of assigned places in the musical staff. But, rhythms, everybody reads that. That's the written language of music. And then with keyboards, they teach us, it's kind of the basis for music theory. And so it's the same as the xylophone or, marimba or, many mallet instruments. It's the same keyboard, basically, arranged in the same way. And so, it was a cool thing. I mean, that was something my parents wanted me to get into. My mother played the piano at home, so my aunt played the piano, and then we'd have family gatherings, and they'd sing songs and all this kind of stuff. So it was kind of around, And then studying music, understanding, piano a little bit was very helpful, in that, you kind of learn things about melody, chord structure, those kind of things, and music theory, and it was just very helpful. Because I liked a lot of different kinds of music, and, playing the piano was just kind of my introduction to, a broader world, of music.
How did you, when you were with the disciples, you played for some special groups, and is that when you were with the disciples that you opened for Aretha Franklin?
No. Aretha Franklin, that was Tower of Power.
Tower of Power, okay.
Yeah. So the disciples, that's just like a little neighborhood band, and we were kind of loved funk music and rock and roll, and so we playing shows around like all the other bands were doing. It was a cool live music scene, and so that's what we were doing. I was doing that right before I went into the military.
Now, in the records, in one part of the records, it says that you were in the Air Force, and in one part of them it says that you were in the Army. Were you in both, or you were just in the Air Force?
I was in the Air Force, so I don't know what records you're looking at, but I was a member of the 724th Air Force Band at McCord Air Force Base in Tacoma, Washington. I was there for 3.5 years, and it was probably one of the coolest experiences of my life, being around players like that. I'd never been around players that good, of every instrument. And it was during the Vietnam War, so the draft was going, everybody was in the military, everybody of draft age was going, and so we had a huge symphonic band, 53 people, something like that. So really, really terrific symphonic band. Smaller groups, big bands, small, ensembles, that kind of thing, So, and then I was also playing locally. I got involved with some of the local players, in Tacoma, Washington, but they had a kind of funky music scene there too. It was pretty cool. There was a band I used to sit in with called Charles and the Entertainers, and they were really great. All local guys, some of them still living there, in Tacoma.
Now, how did you, just for the record, how did you become a part of the Tower of Power?
I'd gotten out of the military, and I came back to the Bay Area to continue playing music. This was December 8th of 1969. And I came back home and started playing locally, just getting out, doing gigs. And there was a a nightclub in Oakland called the On Broadway. And the drummer there played in the house band. The house band was called the Reality Sandwich.
The Reality Sandwich.
Reality Sandwich. And so there, it's a bunch of crazy people, and the drummer had hurt himself. So somehow I got involved being a sub. And one of the subs was Mike Clark, the drummer with Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters. And we became really good pals instantly. And he was one of the first people that I met after I got out of the service. And so we were kind of taking turns subbing. And so occasionally, two horn players from the Tower Power, Mick Gillette and Skip Mesquite, both, have passed away, used to come and sit in with us. And on one particular night, they came in, I was playing. They said, we're looking for a drummer. And I knew about the Tower Power, I knew about them. We're looking for to replace our drummer. Would you be interested? So I went and checked it out. They were playing at the Keystone Corner in San Francisco, over on Vallejo Street. And they were playing, it was kind of this sort of multi-ethnic sort of band, very typical of the, Bay Area scene, playing original funk music and some really obscure cover songs that you'd only know about if you were a musician. And they were arranging these songs kind of in their own way. And they had a really unique, cool sound already because Rocco, the bass player, kind of was a really big part of the band's, musical signature. And I went to see him, and I knew right then that I was going to be in it. Even before I had met the guys, even before I had, played with them, I knew I was going to be in it. And Emilio, the leader, we met and invited me to come and play with the band. So I went to their rehearsal place over in Berkeley. And it was kind of instantaneous, And so my first official date with the band was my Tower Power birthday is July 23rd, 1970. And so that was kind of it's always been a big date for me in my life because Tower Power basically is my musical home. I've been in and out of it for crazy reasons because everybody was drug dealers and alcoholics and weirdos. And then I just couldn't be around that because I wanted to play. But they're still my brothers, my family. So, what do you do? So I always felt connected to it. And so here I am talking to you.
Tell me some of your highlights of playing with Tower of Power.
There's been a bunch of them.
Give me about 5. I mean, we're talking about 30 years, so you can give me at least 5.
Yeah. Well, we used to play a lot at the Fillmore, because Bill Graham was, the great Bill Graham, he was our first manager. And so Bill used to put us on a lot of really terrific shows. And we had done the CBS Records Convention in Los Angeles with Aretha Franklin. And it was Bernard Purdy was in the band, and it was Les McCann was on the show, a bunch of people. And that was really kind of our first exposure, really big, big moment to play with people of that stature. And so right after that, and here's this poster up here on my wall, is Bill put us on the shows with Aretha Franklin at the Fillmore when she did Aretha live at the Fillmore. So we opened for Aretha on all those shows. And I became friendly with Purdy, and because I idolized him. And so it was pretty exciting. Ray Charles was there. We did 3 nights, and Aretha was really beautiful to us. She treated us so well. All her band, they were great with us because they were all, established studio guys, and we were just these, little hippie band, basically, who just wanted to be like them. And they treated us so well. Then we also did kind of our first national exposures were with Santana and Creedence Clearwater, because I knew the drummers, Michael Shreve and Doug Clifford, and they took us on tours with them. And that sort of brought us to kind of a broader audience. And so, there's just been a lot of stuff. It's hard to give you 5 because it seemed like everything was special. We played with so many cool artists, and our horn section, they've, I don't know, done 400 or 500 major recording sessions with everybody you can imagine. So pretty famous in that regard. Recently we did the NAMM show in Los Angeles, and it was probably one of the great Tower Power performances ever. I don't know why. It's just one of those nights, when everything was right, and you're playing in front of your peers, which is a whole other ball game, But it's just, Tower Power is like, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of, we make this stuff up as we go along. We're still doing that. And it has taken us, into some really, really interesting places, meeting with lots of people, playing lots of gigs everywhere. So, we work so much that it's difficult, I think, to give you 5 gigs that would be the most memorable. And that's because, for me, it's all super memorable. We've done so many really terrific things. We had even the rehearsals. We used to have a rehearsal place in the Bay Area at, actually the original rehearsal place was at San Pablo and Chaucer in Berkeley. Then we moved over to Studio Instrument and Rentals in San Francisco. We stayed there for a long time and kept our gear there. We would rehearse every day. Every day was a rehearsal. Even when we come home from the road, the next day was always 11 o'clock in the rehearsal studio. And so that was kind of a place where a lot of musicians congregated. It was a lot of the Bay Area bands. They rehearsed there. When Herbie Hancock was living here, his bands rehearsed there. Billy Cobham, his bands rehearsed there. There was the Tubes, Santana. So it was kind of like a really historical place where even if you weren't playing, you'd go there just to hang out with everybody. So even the rehearsals were memorable. The rehearsal days. I mean, we still have rehearsal times that we were putting songs together that to me are just cooler than some of the gigs we did, because it was so much fun and so interesting,
Did you travel to Europe and places like that?
Yeah, all over the place. We go to Tower Power. We had been doing up until this COVID thing started. We've been doing 150 dates, 175. We've done some years 100, no less than that. It was for a long time, average about 150 dates a year, and that's all over the world. That's, Europe, Japan, Asia, Southeast Asia, everywhere, And so it was full on, this Tower Power, we call it the Million Gig March. I mean, we were going every place,
So when you go to Europe and or Asia, how are you received there?
Well, especially in Europe, we play a lot of the big festivals there. We do North Sea Jazz, Montreux, the Pori Jazz Festival in Finland. We've done the Nice Jazz Festival, lots of different stuff, concert halls, clubs, television. We've done lots of television. The interesting thing about Europe, too, is that when you play on the major festivals, it's always televised. And so those shows are sold to other countries. And so basically your performances are seen by many, many other countries in Europe. So you kind of have a different profile there because you're on television than than you would have here in the United States. The musical landscape here is very different.
You know, I was as I was reading about you, and I read about where you you and another fellow member of the Tower of Power had an accident with a train.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just wanted to say that I'm very happy to see that you recovered so well from that. But I'm sure that was you were on your way to a gig when that happened.
We were playing at Yoshi's in Oakland. Yoshi's is a kind of a Bay Area institution, and we was literally like 3 blocks from where Tower of Power started. You know, at the on Broadway. We used to play the Broadway Tuesday nights, and it was a big deal. And so then, you know, coming back here to Oakland to play, you know, right in the same area was always a big deal to us. And we were doing a residency there. We would play every January. We would do a series of shows at Yoshi's. It's a really fabulous music venue in downtown Oakland. So this particular year, we were doing 12 shows, 6-night run, and really successful. Lines around the block, you know, every show packed. The band was playing fantastic. Mark Van Wachnig, the bass player, he was subbing for Rocco. And so we had met, we had done, I think, 5 nights already, and we had met for dinner, the night before the shows, and you know, just talking, telling stories, you know, laughing, that kind of stuff like we always do. And so we walk out of the restaurant, which was just across the street, and there's trains that go along the Embarcadero in downtown Oakland, along the waterfront, and that's where Yoshi's is, in an area called Jack London Square. And so there's train tracks, and trains go through there all the time. So we come out of the restaurant, there was a train going by. So we thought, well, let's walk down to the corner, right? That'll take us across. We walk across the street. We walk the corner of Clay and Embarcadero. You walk across the street of Clay Street, and you cross over the Embarcadero, and you're at the backstage door of Yoshi's. And it was 7:30. Showtime was 8. We're just getting ready to go over there and, you know, start rolling for the evening. And we were all excited. And so we go to the corner, train is going by, we're talking, people are gathering behind us. And the train goes by, and you hear ding, 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 you know, the sound of the train. So the train is going by, so people start to move out into the crosswalk. At that crosswalk, there was no pedestrian safeguard or anything. It's just you had to really watch what was going on. So it was at night. We walk out into the crosswalk, and somebody behind us yells "train." And Mark and I were on the track that's across from. There's 3 tracks. One that for the westbound. One, how's it? Yeah, a west track and an east track. So we're on the east track, and we look to our left, and out of the shadows, another train is coming.
Oh, my.
And it was right there. And we looked at each other. We were stuck. There was nothing we could do. So I tried to get out of the way. I moved backward, and he moved forward. We tried to get out of the way, and we got hit. So it was just a freak kind of a deal, because it was dark. You could hear ding, 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 the train going by. You think it's okay to cross the street. We get out into the street, and 2 trains are converging right at a pedestrian crosswalk, and we got hit. And so, you know, we're both doing really well. We're still playing with the band, of course, and you know, but it's taken a lot of effort to be able for me to be back here talking to you today, you know. So I'm thankful to God to be sitting here talking to you, you know, and to be able to enjoy my family.
That's, you know, God has a way of getting our attention in different ways.
Yeah, wow.
And always give him credit and appreciation, because even in our misery, he gives us mercy, and I'm very, and that's a tribute. And I did, you know, when I read the story about what happened, I was like, this is just so a unique experience to happen.
Yeah, well, you don't want it to be that unique. I mean, you know, almost getting, you know, a near-death experience, it makes you can appreciate life in a different sort of a way. You know?
Oh, definitely. But I mean, you know, being unique by being unusual, being that this is something that just doesn't happen every day, and what an impact it has on one's life. But I also noticed that you have received from the Modern Drummer magazine for 5 consecutive years. You won in the R&B funk category, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I mean, your work is being duly recognized. And could you just tell me about how many, in 1998 you got Best Percussion Video Award.
Yeah, that was a trio that I was in called Talking Drums, percussion trio. And we toured for about 10 years. We did touring, clinics. We wrote 2 books, did an instructional video. So we did this trilogy of instructional stuff. So, you know, I've written books and, you know, done a lot of the stuff in the educational world, you know, still do.
You
know,
still
so
do drummer videos, correct? You still do the drummer videos?
Yeah, do videos and that kind of thing, you know. But, you know, education has always really been important to me. I kind of idolize teachers in the same way that I idolize players. And so, you know, I've had my favorite players who I tried to emulate, but then also I've had teachers who I'm still learning their lessons from, you know, and they meant so much to me. And so I kind of idolize them as well, you know. And in my teaching, I do a lot of teaching. And so in my teaching, I try to, you know, have the same sort of personal kind of mentor sort of approach with people, you know.
How many albums have Tower of Power put out?
You know, to be honest, I really don't know the number of the albums, but we started recording in 1970 and still recording. I mean, we actually, when the pandemic started in March and all of this craziness, lockdowns and all these, we had a new recording released right that very month. It came out, I think, March 20th, called Step Up. So we just had done a major recording project. We recorded 28 songs. The first part of it was called The Soul Side of Town, and the second part of it is called Step Up. And were released at 2 different times. The Soul Side of Town was released on our 50th anniversary, which was in June 2 years ago. And then this one came out, you know, just this last spring. But we, you know, of course, no one's touring, so we haven't been able to go out and promote it or anything like that. So probably a lot of people don't even know it exists, you know.
How have you seen the music industry change since the time that you started in 1970 with Tower of Power? How has the music industry changed with you? How have you seen the good side of it and the bad side of it?
Well, the thing is there's really, being in a band is very difficult. You know, there's only just a few bands around that have any kind of, you know, longevity like that. There's us, there's Earth, Wind and Fire. You know, there's Incognito from, you know, the UK, you know, bands like us with the horns and all of that stuff. You know, it's difficult to be, have the same number of people, keep a band together for a long, long time. These days, it's a lot of freelance work. You know, you can be a star on YouTube without having any, you know, being in anybody's band.
Okay.
And so, you know, it's very, very different. You know, the way that we came up was you kind of got together with a group of people, you stayed together, you lived together, you eat together, you make music together, and it was like a lifestyle kind of a deal, you know. So kind of Tower Power comes out of that sort of tradition, you know.
You know, when we talk about funk music, what does funk music mean to you, and how do we classify Blue Eyed Soul when it comes to the funk music?
Well, you know, I think music doesn't have a color, you know. Music is universal, you know. It's something that everybody can do and everybody can participate in. And, you know, I think that to make a music associated kind of, or to, how do you say, put a color to music, it delegitimizes it in a way. It makes it less than what it is, because, you know, music reaches out to, you know, like to everyone, you know. And so coming up for me, and, you know, the guys that I'm around and the people that I have always worked with and grew up, I mean, we idolized, you know, musicians of all different kinds, and there was a lot of African-American musicians that, to me, are just groundbreaking in what they did, and so we just idolized them, you know. I don't know how else to say it, you know. It's just a big part of the American landscape, the contribution of those men and women, you know. But they reach across cultures, they reach across color, you know, it brings people together. And I think that's the great thing about funk music, you know, is that it's party music, it's fun, it's groove, you know, it's about doing something together. I mean, it's just, I don't know how to describe it other than that. It's just, it's a lot of different kinds of music together. It's inspired by a lot of different things, you know.
And I think that that was really a very good description, because music really does cross all barriers, and
yes.
And music is one of those things that just goes to the heart. And,
you know, here in the Bay Area, you know, excuse me, but here in the Bay Area, coming up with Tower, and, you know, it's just the musician scene. You know, there were struggles in other parts of society, you know, but with the musicians here, you know, I just remember people being together, and, you know, people respecting each other, and, you know, people playing together, making music together, and have relationships and, you know, families and things together. That's what I remember, you know. So it was a different kind of thing socially, you know. It was a great thing.
You know, the music coming up in the 70s and the 60s, the 70s, was really fantastic music. It was instruments, it was alive.
Yeah.
And it stirred one's soul to just be a part of it. I think that's one of the things that makes funk music. You can't sit still with a funk song being played or someone going into the funk groove. And music, regardless of whether it's classical music, whether it's jazz, whether it's fusion, there is something there for everyone, that even if you don't understand the words, the beat and the instruments will connect with people.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the fun things I think that about the Tower Power shows, is that it's full contact. You know, people they're having fun, and you know, yelling and screaming, and, you know, action. You know, it's fun. You know, it's a good thing. You know.
I can't imagine what it feels like to go on a group like the Tower of Power, going on the stage, seeing all of those faces out there. I'm sure it is an adrenaline rush to dictate the show.
It's pretty exciting. You know, the thing about Tower that's really great is everybody we have a very high standard, you know, amongst, you know, what we do. Each person each individual guy in the band. You know, they have very high standards about what they do. They play really well. They bring it every night. Understand what's happening in the Tower musical landscape. And everybody does their very, very best every night to perform to their highest level. So, you know, Tower has a reputation of, you know, high level music. It's because of that. You know, we have very high standards, and I think that people see that, they like it, and it is exciting to people to come and watch people perform and do something where they're having a good time and they're trying as hard as they can to play as good as they can. You know, that's a good thing.
So where do you see the future of David, and where do you see the future of Tower of Power in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, it'd sure be great if we were out doing some gigs, I'll tell you that. So,
you will,
you know,
eventually, you will.
Yeah. You know, this is like, I have to say, this is the longest the Tower has ever been quiet, because we are going constantly. And so that's the habit that we all have, the habit I have, you know, just playing all the time. And so, you know, not only do I do Tower, you know, but I do other music projects. I teach, I write books. I'm involved in writing book projects now. You know, I'm involved in a recording project with some friends, you know, that put some music together years ago, and now we're kind of like bringing it to life. We're going to finish this project. So there's that. But you know, the story's still being written. You know, there's new chapters coming. Who knows what the future is going to bring? I mean, we're still in touch, all the Tower guys. It's like family, you know. It's like all of a sudden you can't see your family. We all live in different places, you know. But we talk all the time. Do the Zoom calls, you know, when there's band meetings and stuff, and text messaging, you know, the whole business. I miss everybody. I really miss all those guys. You know, it's like my family, you know. And so, but I think that, you know, we're just going to continue. We're going to keep rolling, you know, until we can't roll anymore. You know, I don't know. That's just things in the way it should be, you know.
And you know what, David, I really do agree. You know, just you know, we just got to keep going until we can't go anymore. And
Yeah.
but it's always that you know, we always have to have a goal and to figure out what's going on and where we're going and how we're doing it. And I see you got your drums there. Were you planning on playing a beat for me or something?
No, I don't know if I'm going to play any beats. I don't know if the sound's going to be any good.
Oh, well, I wouldn't, listen, a great drummer like you, I would never want you not to have the best sound coming from you, especially someone. That's a fact.
All right, let's see how this is. How's this?
Good. I liked it. You know, I tell you, David, this has been really a great pleasure to talk to you, for you to share your story about Tower of Power, who David is, the drums, your life. I can't thank you enough for sharing with us about the Funk Chronicles and knowing that funk is so important. And I wish you the best, and I would like to say thank you so very much for being with us on the Funk Center, the Chronicles, and that you want to tell me why you think it's important for us to have this Funk Center?
Well, I mean, there are so many great musicians that have, you know, throughout musical history, modern musical history, that are, you know, responsible for the way that music is, and need to have a venue like this to be, you know, for people to be immortalized, so people don't forget about them. You know, I think it's pretty fantastic, you know, and I applaud you for for doing it. I'm really excited that I'm in it. I mean, this is pretty cool, you know. So thank you.
You know what, David? I tell you, you know, being able to hear the stories of the funksters, and that's just what I call it, the funksters. It is exciting, and you know, and if we don't tell our stories, then the stories aren't going to be told, and this is a genre that needs to be perpetuated, and so I appreciate you being included into the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center's program. So this is Rhine McLin, host of the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center's award-winning show, Funk Chronicles. Until the next time, keep it funky, funky, funky.
It's as good as could be expected in these uncertain times. But there must be many reasons for our precipitous decline. Woo!